Welcome to another episode of In Your Business. Today we're going to speak with an entrepreneur who's in the technology business. And many times when I'm working with students at the university, they're very interested in informatics. And sometimes, that's kind of a new interest. And so when we start talking about where their interests really lie and try to figure out what they're wanting to do, it comes back to the technology. So today as we meet with Ian and we understand his business, we're going to learn a little bit more about what informatics really is and how he utilizes technology in business as an entrepreneur. So Ian, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, sir.
Ian, what I'd like to do is we're going to get to know the business. We're going to understand about how you started it, where you started it, why you started it, what you're doing. But before that, I always like to get to know you as an entrepreneur.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
At the end of the day, it's funny because when I meet a lot of entrepreneurs, I meet so many that are in so many different areas, everything you can imagine. And so I get excited about technology because I like technology, okay? But let's learn about you. As a child, did you grow up in this area?
I did not. I grew up in the Dayton area.
Okay. So we welcome you from the Dayton area to the Richmond area. And as you were just a little guy, what were you thinking you might like to be when you grow up?
So when I was younger, I spent a lot of time with my nose in a book studying Native American artifacts and culture. So I really wanted to grow up and become an archaeologist or a paleontologist.
It's an excellent study. I mean, I could see how that would just be so fascinating just to even travel and learn and discover.
Yes,
So,
sir.
And so then as you grew through your high school years, that's usually when we change. I was going to be an attorney and then decided I was going to be an accountant and then wound up as an entrepreneur myself. But so when did you kind of start changing into technology?
Well, when I was in high school, I was actually having a lot of trouble at home. So because my dad was out of work at the time, I would actually spend a lot of time working and bringing in some additional income. And I found that I needed to come up with ways to utilize technology in a more efficient manner to make that more efficient, to bring in that income and just make things roll a little bit better for our family.
Okay. It's a lot of responsibility at a very young age.
Yes, sir.
And that probably makes you a strong entrepreneur, though.
I like to think so.
Yeah. So then let's talk now about your business, and I'll let you, tell us about it. Tell us about, what do you do?
So Meihua Technologies is a IT consultancy and managed service provider company. Essentially what we do is we come in, we do audits and consultations of a company's network, infrastructure, and security situation, and we give them a full breakdown of where are they being efficient, where could they improve, and where can they save or eliminate different processes and components so that they can make things run more smoothly and more integrated.
So I think the key there is the fact that you're a consultant.
Sir.
Because oftentimes everything you're talking about can be overwhelming.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I understand technology. I enjoy technology. When it comes to actually setting up an office and making sure that it's right, I would be wrong. Okay. So that's why I need a consultant. I need somebody like yourself. So small business, large business, does it matter?
So small, medium businesses in the manufacturing industry or vertical is what we primarily look at, but we also look at sub-verticals in the health and legal profession as well.
Okay. So you're located here in Richmond, correct?
Yes, sir.
And how many employees do you have?
So it's just me right now.
Okay. So sole proprietor or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So sole proprietor working out of Richmond,
Mm-hmm.
helping small to medium-sized business.
Yes, sir.
Doing consulting on technology, trying to bring all of it together. Okay. So when you decided, how did you decide that this is the business you're going to get into?
Well, I had actually been bouncing from job to job. In 2012, I was homeless, and I found myself just unsure of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. My wife now actually saved me from the streets, and she actually recommended that I get back into IT. When I was in high school, I utilized IT a lot to obviously take care of my household, as I stated previously.
Mm-hmm.
But I had dropped out of that when I lost my home. And so once she encouraged me to get back into IT, I took a trade course, and that was what started the stepping stones to getting myself back into the IT industry. I ended up working for Morgan Stanley and McGraw-Hill Education on 2 different contracts. And from there, it just kind of took off. I decided I really enjoyed what I was doing, and I wanted to just learn more and definitely build up my own skill set. Not just because it was for work, but because I just loved it. I enjoyed digging into the code, digging into how does this connect to this, and how can I make this work faster, better, or more efficiently.
It's interesting because you brought up the word code, okay?
Yes,
And when people start speaking to me about coding and they start talking about programming and such, it's something that can become very intimidating. And I know if it is for me, it has to be for others, okay?
Yes.
But a lot of times I realize even the simple things that I'm doing, okay, in my office, in my home, once I get more and more comfortable and I add to it, I do it better, and it's fun. How have you taught yourself to do this?
So just about everything I know is either self-taught or I went out and asked somebody for assistance through mentorships or through other groups, where if I don't know something, I want to make sure that I'm surrounded by people who are ready and willing to help me out.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, and each of us have different strengths. So some things will come natural to me, some will come natural to you. But as you were learning the technology and you were learning some of the coding and some of the development, what were some of the more challenging things for you?
So for me personally, it's extremely challenging for me to come out and actually talk to people about things. Now once I get to talking, it's easy for me to bring things down to their level, but that initial starting the conversation is actually very difficult for me as a technician, as an IT professional. I prefer to sit behind a screen and type away and do my thing.
Sure.
So that was a challenge for me, was learning how to come out of my shell, learn to actually talk to people, and in a way that doesn't intimidate them. My philosophy is if I can't explain it to you like you're 5 years old, then I don't know it well enough. With that, though, I'm also a jack of all trades and master of one, and that one is myself. It's a constant state of self-improvement and making sure that no matter what you have as a challenge, you address it and you make sure you're doing what you can to at least improve in that area a little bit every day.
Okay. And how do you find ways to make that improvement? I mean, is it through books? Is it through video? Is it, courses?
So I like to consider myself the Google that champion. You can Google just about anything you want to know and you'll be able to find it. YouTube is a great video resource if you're wanting to learn something there. There's other online locations like udemy.com where you can go online and just learn whatever it is you really want to learn. I believe there's another one called Shaw Academy. That's another video resource I've used in the past. But definitely reading tons of books, making sure that you're a part of groups and forums. There are fantastic forums on like reddit.com where you can go and just be a part of an active, engaging community that you can just go in and say, yes, I'm working on XYZ, but I can't figure out ABC to XYZ. Can you help me? And usually they'll ask you for, a little bit of context, and then you provide that to them, and then they go straight into helping you out. Okay. Facebook is another really great place, actually, to find tons of technological-minded groups where they just work together to help each other out.
So there's a wealth of resources available to you.
Of course. And most of them are actually free as well. So if you're somebody who likes to self-learn and self-teach yourself new things, there's no excuse. I mean, you can go online and just make it happen. It's all about, do you have the capacity to do it?
So Ian, do you find yourself learning something new every day, every week? Or
every day. Yeah? Every day. There's always something new to learn. And if you ever tell yourself there's not, well, that's a problem.
Sure, sure. So it's kind of interesting for me, though, because I can tell you're very interested in the technology, learning new technologies every day and advancing. But what about being an entrepreneur? Had you ever thought of yourself as an entrepreneur?
Oh, goodness, no. So my family is by no means entrepreneurial. My father has worked in a factory for most of his life, and my grandfather did the same.
Okay.
I started following those footsteps. Like I said, I did work in a few manufacturing plants in the past. I just decided that I wanted something more. I wanted to be able to control, if you will, my own hours and pay and so on and so forth, and also use the skills that I have to just help people.
Sure. Well, it's quite interesting because at the university I teach entrepreneurship. And so I'm working with students who want to become entrepreneurs, but maybe they're not even sure yet what. You know, I mean, whether it be the business you're in, or whether it may be a bakery, or it might be a restaurant, who knows? Entrepreneurs go in many different directions. But one of the things that's important is a business plan.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a business plan?
It's about 50-50. So I do believe that a business plan is important. And the reason I say 50-50 is because I feel like every time I turn around, I'm editing something else out of it, or I'm putting something in. I learn something new about myself or about my company, and that just changes the vision. Whether it's 3 years from now, it changes that vision, or a year, or even 10 years down the line. There's always going to be something that's changing. So for me, a business plan is something that's alive. So yes, you want to have definitely a rough idea of where you want to go, but don't expect that to stay the same. It's going to change, it's going to breathe, and it's going to live, especially as you learn new things, as you succeed, and as you fail, it's just going to explode in an awesome way.
Sure. It's kind of fun because, as I tell the students, when I ask an entrepreneur, do you have a business plan, I'm either going to get a yes, a hesitation, or a no. And if there's truly one, the yes is what I get. And I got a yes from you.
Yes, sir.
If I get a hesitation, that means they know they should have. Okay? And then if I get a no, that means no.
Right.
A lot of entrepreneurs that are in business, they have their business plan in their head. They can answer any question that I may have. They just don't have it written out. Okay? A plan is very important, and I think you should write it out, because it allows you to go back and make those adjustments you're speaking of.
Right.
And you got to surround yourself with the right resources, okay? So you're in business, you know the importance of having good accounting.
Yes, sir. It's extremely important, especially when you find yourself in a tight spot and you want to know, okay, where can I move things around to make sure that things stay afloat?
Yeah. So how do you do that? Do you rely on a software, or do you go to an accountant, or, you know?
So I like to not put all my eggs in one basket with any portion of my business. So in my case, I do utilize software. I do have QuickBooks Online, but I also utilize an accountant to double check those figures.
See, and I think that's very wise, you know. And I agree with not putting all your eggs in one basket and making sure you've got things surrounded. And I mean, even down to, I mean, you may not use a lot of suppliers. I'm not sure.
So I do have a couple of different suppliers. We call them partners in our industry. So I am partnered with like Microsoft or Dark Web ID. So we definitely have partners here at Meihua Technologies, and they do provide us with the ability to provide our services or our inventory. So if, for example, you wanted to buy a laptop, I would ask you, okay, well, what kind of laptop do you want, and what's the use that you're going to use it for? Because both of these are very important. A college student versus a major graphic design artist, that laptop's going to be two totally different things.
Sure.
So I want to make sure I have an understanding of what you need so that I can provide it.
And oftentimes it might even be a different environment now, because I know a few years ago I switched from desktop to laptop. But today I do a lot of VR, the virtual reality.
Yeah.
And that forces me to go back to a desktop, because the tower is what it takes to drive, you know, those gaming units.
Yes, sir.
And so I can see where you're talking about, that you have to be able to really understand what my needs are to fulfill them.
Yes, sir. A virtual reality situation is definitely going to require much more advanced hardware, as you already know. Having to get a desktop unit to contain the larger graphics card, maybe even larger desktop drives, so you can actually store all of your games. Not to mention, you're going to want larger fans to be able to cool that, so you can run for a longer period of time without having to worry about overheating.
Right, and I have 2 fans on mine, so for that reason. But it's kind of interesting, because a lot of businesses that you might work with may not realize how important those are going to be for their simulation models.
Right.
And I know a lot of medical and healthcare, we're seeing more and more of the VR, and so those offices will have to definitely address those.
Yes, sir.
And that's where you're the expert.
Yes, sir. As technology moves forward, there will always be changes. If you're still running on Windows XP or even Windows 7 now, you're very, very quickly falling behind the times. It's not just so much that, oh, well, there's a new operating system out. Those old operating systems are now privy to a lot more malicious attacks, as well as they just can't handle today's technology and software that's coming out. And I mean, it's just improving every single day.
Sure. And when you say that, I mean, it's serious, because if you are running on one of those older units, even when you go to somebody's site, you may not get to even look at it.
Right.
So I mean, it's important to stay that current.
Right.
And if you're running your own site and people are coming to it, you want to make sure you're current.
Right. And you want to make sure that with a website in particular, you want to make sure that not only can I view it on my laptop or my desktop, in today's world, it's got to be able to be viewed on a cell phone or a tablet as well. Today, people are on the go, they're on the move, and having a website is one of the first things that tells a potential client or customer, hey, I'm in business, I'm here, I exist. If you don't have a digital footprint, you're losing on tons of potential customers and clients. It's just the way that today is. If I want to find a particular service, let's say I want to look for a shoe repair shop, and I type in shoe repair shops near me, the first thing I want to see is your website.
Sure.
I mean, yes, it's nice to be able to see that you're on Google and be able to map my way there, but if I can't look at your website and go, hey, do you have some pictures or images of your work? Well, I might just take my business to somebody who does have a website. That, to me, just shows more credibility.
Sure, it's your storefront. I mean,
Right.
It becomes your storefront, and it's the first impression people have. So you help people with that, right?
Yes, sir. We do web development and design here at Meihua Technologies.
Okay. You're at the Innovation Center.
Yes, sir.
And so let's talk about that, because the Innovation Center is something that's been important to our community. A lot of people may not realize how important and how to utilize it. But you made that choice. How did you know about the Innovation Center?
So I learned about the Innovation Center through, now I'm a martial artist, so I have a sihing, which means older Kung Fu brother, and his significant better three-quarters, if you will. She actually recommended to me the Innovation Center, and we got to talking about it, and I decided about 2.5 years ago that that would be a great place for me to get started off. Now, at that particular moment in time, I hadn't started actually moving in over there, but about a year later, after I'd got my business plan figured out and I had decided, okay, what do I want to do, at least to start with? Once I had all that figured out, then I went and followed up on that opportunity and was able to get into the Innovation Center.
So you then took up residency, if you will, at the Innovation Center for your business.
Yes, sir.
And tell us about the resources that are there. Tell us about that environment. What's that like to work there?
So for me, I live in a household with a ton of animals. So being able to go to the Innovation Center and get a little break from some barking in the background when I'm trying to talk to somebody online, having a really fast network for me to be able to provide instant remote connections to my clients and be able to provide that support in a quiet environment where I can hear them and talk to them and figure out what's going on with their problems. That is, I mean, there's just no way to really put a value on that.
Sure.
Especially as a startup. Getting an office is extremely expensive. The Innovation Center is a place where you can go and get your basic office set up for a fraction of the cost of buying an entire building for yourself. So definitely a way to save money, cut on that cost initially, but then also be able to provide a professional appearance and a professional interaction with your clients.
Okay. And do you have shared services there too? I mean, like a reception person?
So the Innovation Center is separate from Meihua Technologies.
Okay.
They don't directly get involved with my business. However, when I need a resource such as a printer, if my printer were to go down for whatever reason, the Innovation Center is there to step in and be able to help me out and provide that service.
Okay.
They also provide, again, that high-speed internet connection, which for me and my business, that's paramount. You just got to have it. You can't be without an internet connection at any point in time, 24/7.
Correct. Okay. So it's worked out really well for you.
Very much so.
Okay. And then in addition to that, as the entrepreneur, you got to make a lot of decisions. Okay. So what has been one of the most challenging things as an entrepreneur for you?
So when I first started in my business, there were a lot of financial problems. I kind of started with very little capital, and one of the biggest decisions that I made was to go ahead and get a business loan. I was 100% against that. I was trying to do my best to get the business running without one, and it just wasn't working. So I did go ahead and get a business loan, and then the business just kept tearing through the finances, and eventually I really ended up in a tough spot. So I made a decision to put myself on blast in an IT business owners group on Facebook, and I basically told them what was going on in my business, and I said, hey, I need help. And this is one of those moments where I'm really glad that I surround myself with like-minded individuals and other business owners that are in the same sector as me. I had over 300 comments on that Facebook post, and I had 3 30-minute phone calls with business owners who gross over $5 million a year. And one of those business owners actually invited me out to an IT conference where I learned how to make my sales and marketing and advertising efforts much more efficient and be able to get my voice out and more public. So it was really difficult for me again. I have to put myself out there,
Right.
but also difficult in that financial sector when you feel like there's nothing you can do. It's just amazing to be helped along by others who have your back and have been there, done that.
Right. Well, that's quite interesting because it's business is not easy.
No, sir.
Being an entrepreneur is quite challenging.
Hardest thing I've ever done, and I've been in the match full contact fighting. So
Yeah.
that's a whole nother story, but
Yeah. So I mean, it is, and you like you said, I mean, you got the loan, you have to pay that back, you're responsible for it, you spend the money down, and you're thinking, how am I ever going to do that?
right.
And then you just have to open up, and you have to go to people who's been there, and they're there for you. I mean, they're resources also, but you can't be afraid to work.
Right.
And I mean, that's what you had to do. I mean, you had to really work hard.
Oh, yes, sir. There are times where you have to say, I know I hate doing XYZ activity. For me, I don't really like putting together copy, right? I don't like putting advertisements together because I feel like it's asking, right? And you're asking for somebody to buy your product.
Right.
But for me, I've always grown up in that you don't ask people for help. You take care of a problem, you provide the solution yourself kind of environment. So creating copy and advertisements is one of the more difficult things for me personally because of that. I will say, though, that the person who's really pushed me to reach new heights and really succeed, and when I'm feeling at the lowest of the low, I would say my wife has been the person who's come to the top and just been there for me. So
Well, that's good. That's good that you got somebody to rely on. And I mean, that's important in business.
yes, sir.
Is to either have an advisory board or to have some support that you can go back to.
Yes, sir.
And the other thing is, as you were mentioning there, and that's just part of what you do in business, is help people learn that it's not just about me having a website, but it's how do I push that website? How do I get people to that website? How do we get people to respond to that website? We're not just in a still environment anymore. We're in a very interactive environment.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, let's speak to that. How do you get businesses to understand that?
Well, what Meihua Technologies' main mission is to explain and let the knowledge come out that IT is no longer just about computers. It's not just about your computer, it's not just about your network, and it's not just about your security, it's not about your printer or your phones. It's all of that and making all of that work together, seamlessly integrated, without wasting any time, money, or resources. Because at the end of the day, every business has a bottom line. My goal is to try and make that bottom line look a little nicer, and at the same time, help your business run more efficiently, right? As I like to put it, technology should save you money, should save you time, or make you money. And in today's world, too often it doesn't, and that's what I help with.
Well, it's interesting to see that you bring it all together because, I mean, you're experiencing it.
So,
I mean, you dove right in as an entrepreneur. You had to learn what you're doing. Now you're sharing it with others, and you're learning from others.
oh, yes, sir.
And you say you're learning every single day,
Every day.
and that's quite impressive. Now, as the entrepreneur, What has been the biggest reward for you?
The biggest reward for me has really just been freedom and the confidence that really comes along with it. When you have the freedom to make your own decisions and say, you know, I need to do X, Y, Z, or I want to do ABC, having that freedom and not being stuck on one particular task is something I really like. For example, right now I'm actually taking Meihua Technologies' website through a complete overhaul. I enjoy doing that.
Okay.
But just like I said earlier, I might not really like doing copywriting, but I have to, that's where the freedom part also is a little bit of a crutch. You have to sit there and go, you know, I love doing this, but I need to set time and balance it out and make sure I'm doing this as well.
Okay.
So for me, the freedom is definitely a big part of it, and the confidence, being able to come out and be able to meet new people, talk to people, explore new places in the world. Within just the last few months where we've been in business, I've been to Tennessee, I've been to Chicago, you know, and just been able to meet so many different people from multiple different backgrounds, and it's just been, I can't even begin to express how amazing of a journey it's been.
Sure. Sounds like you're very passionate and that you love it.
Yes, sir.
Ian, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
This concludes another episode of In Your Business. Today we met with an entrepreneur that's very heavy in technology. Not only is he teaching himself every single day new technologies, but he shares that interest with other businesses. So he's helping other entrepreneurs. Today's survival and entrepreneurship means that you really have to understand how to get your message out, not just to one person, but to several people at a time, and get them engaged with you. And that's what Ian's doing in entrepreneurship. Thank you again for watching In Your Business.